Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, where I have the obligation of introducing to you the proud owner of a barracks in the blue. Just a hop, skip, and a Reaper jump away from his opponent's base. Of course, it's Micro Jackson. It's ByuN. And heading upstairs, his victim. The most interesting Protoss I've seen lately, especially in Protoss versus Terran. It's the Surgeon. Nightmare. So, a very typical start to a very ByuN series, but these two have made for some of the most interesting Terran versus Protoss games. Between ByuN's reckless disregard for the safety of his units and Nightmare's surgical precision with his own, it's definitely a matchup I like to see evolve, which is hopefully why you'll like this video, and possibly, maybe wait till the end. Subscribe. And Jimmy, what? Quickly, what are we at? 1,245 likes on this video, on this cast, on this inevitably cheesy series. And I'll cast another one. And oh my god. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully, starting off with a bunker rush is about to make it a little bit better. The probe, Pokey on the other side. The Reaper, of course, into the main. The Zealot went down to deal with the bunker. Now the Reaper is harassing the probes. Attempting a citizen's arrest right now, but the Reaper just sliding through the mineral line, does not care. The bunker actually finishes. It's an absolute Protossitarian disaster here, as the Reaper almost gets a third kill. The Zealot may try to box it out. No, okay, and they both get into the bunker. Oh no. Well, this... And he salvages the bunker. He gets out. He gets out. Another Reaper gets in. May try to get some more kills. He thought about it, but he used the grenade, so he can't interrupt the Stalker. The Reaper. Yeah, ByuN loses nothing. Nightmare loses 2 probes and a bit of dignity. But otherwise, we're going to go back to our sides of the map. Nightmare's like, I was on my side the whole time. Well... And ByuN has a couple Reapers to play with, which is less than he usually likes, but I'm sure he'll make it work somehow. Technically, 2 Reapers can beat a Stalker, and Stalkers can't heal, so... overall, there is an opportunity to actually do potential damage to the... I don't think he's going to kill the Stalker, but he's certainly going to ignore it while he goes for the... Oh my god. Oh, almost loses one, but it will heal up. The Stalker will be stuffed once again. But Nightmare did have another base. So, even though ByuN's obviously kept the pressure on, he's kept him off balance, this does come at the cost of production and economy. So, it isn't just free to build the barracks across the map. You don't have it for the add-ons to help out later on. A couple Cyclones were built off a reactor factory. But Nightmare, while he was slowed down a bit, he did not take the economic damage that I think ByuN was looking for early. Now the Reapers will commit themselves to getting a scout. There's a very conspicuous Phoenix, making everyone dizzy in the main. And I'm sure ByuN knows that is real. And actually seeing the Phoenix gets him to turn around with a clone drop. Realizing that with multiple Phoenix, he could essentially shut down the Cyclones. And this is kind of how Nightmare got his nickname, the Surgeon. I believe that was suggested by the comments as well, because Nightmare only recently has really solidified his playstyle. Before, he was another one of those YOLO toss. He'd try these crazy all-ins, and usually they wouldn't work out. Occasionally you have a breakout game. But he's really buckled down with this tech-oriented style. And players like ByuN actually really struggle with it. I want to add a big asterisk there, because top-tier Terrans will always find a way. But if Nightmare's able to scout, knowledge is power, and so are pylons. So both of those, used for scouting and for preparing defenses, can sometimes just shut down things like medevac drops, like we saw there, literally before they start. The Phoenixes are brittle. They're vulnerable to Widow Mines, Marines, Ghosts, Vikings, Liberators, missile turrets, their own self-esteem issues, but at the same time, they are the best way to shut down any early tech out of Terran, as there is there's not the mass of units. There's not enough anti-air to chase them down. So essentially, ByuN has been locked out of doing any sort of harass, any sort of pressure out on the map until he gets enough units to successfully ward away the Phoenixes. The big risk for Nightmare, though, is in taking too long to build up an actual ground army, as these Phoenixes are the only thing keeping ByuN at home. And once he has the stim, the combat shield, and the +1, all of which are finishing up, there needs to be enough boots or whatever equivalent. Do they even wear shoes? Are those the Zealots' feet? Are they like cybernetic feet? Show me those toes, Zealots. Moving on. Protoss only. Dronely. 4 more gateways on the way, and that's going to bring us up to 7, maybe 8, I think. Should eventually be the mid-game number, but either way, enough charge lots, and now notably no forge. He's not going to have upgrades. He's relying on the sheer number of charge lots here in order to keep ByuN at bay. The army supply is slightly in favor of the Terran player. He's going to have +1. It's all going to come down to the engagement angle. Those Phoenixes are a wild card in this fight. ByuN's actually backing off. Guns down. Only gets one of the Phoenixes. Cyclones taken out immediately, and charge lots are chasing down the rest. The Phoenixes just picking up units and dropping them back down, picking off a lot of the Marines. But time is on Nightmare's side right now. The longer he's able to keep ByuN at bay, he has 3 bases mining. He doesn't have particularly more economy here. The Widow Mines picked up. I think it didn't quite finish burrowing there. There's no observer. Yeah, he caught it the split second before it burrowed. And now ByuN, in losing about 1/3 of his army there, gets his command center delayed. Nightmare just picking him apart, carving up the army. That Widow Mine, oof. I'm not sure if he saw it or just moved at a fortuitous timing there, as the Widow Mines are a definite danger to the Phoenixes, which have a tendency to stack up in the air, picking off the edges of the Marines. But there's not much to deal with the charge lots. The positioning isn't great for him overall, but Nightmare still threatening. The best defense is indeed a good offense, as long as you don't end up losing too much of it in the process. Really keeping track of things. Still dodges the mine. And now we have a second robo and a robotics bay for Nightmare. As he climbs the tech tree, ByuN still with a much more conventional army. He's got the M and M and M and M at the mines, the Marauders, the Marines, and the Medevacs, which, until Colossi or Disruptors are on the field, all of which are a strong choice against just the Gateway army of Nightmare. But ByuN, I think, feeling the pressure. He needs to get the damage done soon, and Nightmare has to be very careful of those Widow Mines, but otherwise, time is still on his side, especially with the charge lots making their way into the 3rd base mineral line. Gonna kill a few more SCVs. ByuN shoving his way in towards the 3rd. Nightmare might try to use the Phoenixes. Ooh, the chart picks up, only eats 1 Widow Mine, drops down the other. Only took 1 Widow Mine hit throughout all this, so definitely could have been much worse, but the Bio Ball still has enough damage. Throws out a force field for dramatic effect. 2 Colossi in production being chrono boosted. He needs at least 1 to deal with this, as ByuN still has that critical mass of bio that the charge lots just can't really cut into realistically. The observer spots everything, but the Colossus is on the field just in time, picks up the mine. There's 1 more, but he gets it as well. Picks apart the key parts of this army. I believe a Select All Adept comes back, but he's chasing it down. ByuN is still taking out a lot of the army in the process. The Colossus having a tough time actually closing in, and a lot of the charge lots evaporating before they're able to close the distance. And despite the fact that it looks like Nightmare was able to drive ByuN back, Nightmare lost a lot of charge lots throughout this. He's lost 42 of them. Only 1 Stalker and 3 Phoenixes. But, again, Nightmare does have that 3rd base up, but he hasn't built any probes in quite a while. He's at 57 to 64 workers. ByuN even repairing his medevacs, which is a surprisingly rare sight for top-tier Terrans. A Widow Mine spotted. The observer seeing anything move out. Ooh. I don't know if he noticed the mine or just turned around at a solid time. Well, might find out in a moment. But Nightmare is trying to keep him busy. ByuN picks up, and Nightmare, he's out in front of the base right now, and ByuN not expecting this level of aggression. He actually snipes off a near full medevac. And now ByuN is scrambling. He might have the army, but he's not able to bring it to bear. His own wall-off is working against him now. And the Guardian shields, the Widowmine's trying to burrow on top of it. He's able to burn them out before they get down to the ground. 19 SCVs down, 22. And the Phoenixes are coming in to clear up as much as they can, picking up the Marauders, knocking down the medevacs. Nightmare warping in another round. ByuN holding, but at what cost? There's still a Widowmine down there. I'm not sure if the Observer's able to spot it. Not quite. A little bit of a miss micro on the Phoenixes, but the Colossi slowly but surely burning through, trying to target. Oh, Widowmine gets a hit. That might turn the tides here. Right on top of that orbital, but he did the economic damage, and Nightmare behind this is building disruptors. He's not... Oh my god, he kills 4 sentries with 1 Widowmine. That's a disaster for Nightmare. Those are expensive units, so brittle, and now ByuN pulls the boys, trying to chase down, juggling the Colossi back. But the Widowmines will burrow forward. He recalls out the Colossi. He may get them out of there just barely in time. What a save. And the Disruptor shots come in. And ByuN loses a chunk of his army. The Disruptors are traded. But that might be what... that might be the saving grace that Nightmare needed. Oh, that Widowmine just wiping out the sentries. And there's another one right there, but I think he spotted it just in time. The Phoenixes, the survivors. Oh, no. Widowmine recharges, but Nightmare has the economy. He plays such a it's such a careful, yet effective. He killed the armory? No? There's an observer in there. There's an observer with the army. Okay, okay. Nightmare plays this edge of a knife style, where it's oh my god, there's no base here. He drops the bait and there's no bait. That's a good sign for Nightmare, though. The fact that ByuN is lifting the orbital means he doesn't have much to fall back on. And Nightmare might be able to lock it down. He continues to sit right on the edge of ByuN's base, trying to lull him into making a mistake here. And ByuN has been unable to do his trademark multitasking, his move out, his just top tier medevac plays, because Nightmare has preempted it with the Phoenixes. Look at his vision. Oh my god. He just has... Oh god, the disruptor shots. The vision isn't important. The disruptor shots are. He gets a big hit. He's actually warping in mid-fight. Will ByuN go for the Prism? He doesn't. The Colossi still at the back, racking up the kills. 21, 16 kills, and ByuN is losing a critical mass. And that, I think, is that in game number 1. Yes, the Marauders are good. And even a single Marauder with a medevac is a potentially deadly number. ByuN continues scrambling out, but the disruptor shots are raining in. There's still a charge lot. Eventually the Widowmines recharge. And ByuN not willing to tap this out quite yet. The juggling is good, but Nightmare's economy is better. And despite the painful fights, Nightmare was able to keep the most important parts of his army alive, juggling the Colossi out of Marauder fire, warping in another 10 charge lots. And that should be it. GG. Nightmare with a masterclass in game 1. ByuN still able to bite back, but Nightmare recovers from the early game proxy and eventually cuts his way through. Wow, that was some top tier Protoss right there. Nightmare. He plays the theoretically correct way. He plays the way that has almost seemed entirely impractical. Like, just go Phoenixes to shut down the early game, and then follow up with Robo in order to deal with the Bio Army. Yeah, easier said than done. And we even saw in that game, easier said than done. But at the end of the day, if you're able to stay on top of it without going too far, which is a line that's almost invisible, just like Widowmine targeting, then maybe you can hold it and push the Terrans back. And that is why Nightmare is quickly becoming my favorite Protoss to watch, at least against Terran. I was seeing this series from, I believe this is recent championship. These two have played a lot in the last... Like, it's quickly becoming the Korean Clem versus Max Pax, I feel. With ByuN, obviously the father of Clem. Not quite that old, but not too far off, somewhat uncomfortably. But ByuN has been around a while, and also has that kind of aggressive YOLO style that for every time it wins him a series, we'll lose him a game. So, okay, interesting. ByuN going for the NG Bay block. The NG Bay is the choice because it has the most HP. Okay. Typical. The NG Bay is the choice because it has the highest HP to mineral ratio. You don't actually intend to finish it, but buildings start with about 10% of their HP. So the NG Bay just, I believe 750 is the total compared to 400 for a depot. You got 1,000 for a Rex, but that does cost more minerals, and it builds slower. So the NG Bay, that happy balance of maximum annoyance for the Protoss. I actually think the NG Bay block is relatively low risk, but medium to high reward, because option 1, the Protoss expansion, is delayed. In this case, Nightmare chose not to take another base, which is the other option. Well, there are 3. In order of what I think is the best most of the time. And 1, you just delay your base, you get your cyber core, you're going to get the rest of your tech a little faster, but overall you're behind in your economy. Of course, the Terrans are trading some of theirs as well, but... and then option 2 is take a different base, like at your 3rd, depending on which one you like, usually on the low ground. But that leaves you vulnerable to things like cyclones and other kind of early mid-game harass. Hellions, just drops in general. And then you just have counter all-inning, which can be effective because everything else is slowed down, especially if they go for an expansion. But is also relatively easy to scout and deal with for Terran. Like, if they retreat to the high ground in time, it's unlikely your shenanigans are going to go unchallenged. So... that Warp Prism micro, though. Like, that was the deciding factor of the game. Was the Warp Prism juggling the Colossi back, making their extended thermal lance even more extended. Just how I like it. Dark Shrine, Robo. Wait, Dark... well, I'm sorry. Let me say that appropriately. Dark Shrine. Wow. That is definitely on the short list of things to try to take advantage of this odd situation. But a Raven's already on the way for ByuN. He's also going Blink and Robo, so Nightmare is doing a little bit of everything, which runs the risk of having a whole lot of nothing by the end of it. God, ByuN loves these Cyclone drops. Hello? He gets the medevac. He will likely lose at least one Stalker here. The shield battery will save him on the other side. But ByuN actually just outright lose the medevac. Again, Nightmare. He keeps pushing out and catching some of ByuN's units because he's used to such coward Protoss. But Nightmare is challenging him here. And gets... yeah, this is going actually really well. He's able to get... the medevac was the key point, but getting a Cyclone? Great. Sorry, it feels like I'm a little biased here, but I'm always biased for good games for the fans. And ByuN is showing us yesterday's Terran, and Nightmare is showing us tomorrow's Protoss. That's what it feels like so far. Of course, yesterday's Terran is usually as good as 10 years ago, which is a very similar strategy of 1-1-1 into what have you. Well, this is... no, okay, well. This is... hello. That's a Raven! Hello! I'm not sure either player really acknowledged what was happening there for a moment. Yeah, at least it got the DTs out. But that could not have been shut down earlier. In fact, it was shut down so early, it didn't go as well as it could have for ByuN. If the DTs had actually gotten in and he was able to kill them off, or maybe even get the Warp Prism, that would be the ideal. But Nightmare is not... oh my god, I thought he would just go kill the Earth Stack. Nightmare is by no means in trouble here. Because he got the DTs out. He still has that Prism. he still has the Prism, and he's got the third. So, and Blink as well. He's gone for such tech. His unit count, he has 4 Stalkers and 2 DTs. Right now, ByuN could probably walk across the map and kill him. But ByuN can't know that easily. Oh my god. Oh my god. What a snipe. Oh my god. XX Shadow Stalker 420 XX Sniper. With a 3 and a 7. And oh! Oh! I believe ByuN just got served. The Observer Micro, much better than mine, I will say. I try, but sometimes I get distracted. But apparently Nightmare, no, oh my god. Well, the Prism, that wasn't great. But you know what? I'll take it. He gets the Raven, and he keeps his Prism alive. So far, Nightmare is all over the place, and ByuN is unable to keep up. ByuN is getting caught right outside. Oh my god, not again! He gets it! What a snipe! And the Observer is spotted and killed, but the damage is done, and now we have another Observer. The DT's in the base. God, it's almost like Nightmare is toying with him. I've never seen someone outplay ByuN this hard. Nightmare is all over everything. The eyes of Oh my god. Hello? Oh my god. Not again? What? So, Nightmare has killed 3 Medivacs, 2 Cyclones, 20 Marines, a Raven, and a Marauder, for 2 Stalkers, a Zealot, an Observer, and 2 Probes. Stonks. So now, well, there's one part of this left, which is actually beating the army. Because ByuN, part of the reason he's taken this much damage is because he had that much to kind of give away. Not really give away, that's not the right way to put it, but he has enough economy and production that losing a medevac here or there is bad, but not game-ending. It's not like he's desperate, especially since he shut down the DTs, which was Nightmare's first direction. That just means Nightmare has spent all this time making sure ByuN doesn't get ahead, as opposed to getting ahead of ByuN. It is very impressive, though, make no mistake. And again, here comes Nightmare, trying to keep ByuN honest by staying on his doorstep. Yep, there we go. Extended Thermal Lance is done. +1 is not. Key point. Which means it's all dependent on positioning and Colossus Micro. ByuN looking for an angle. He's using siege tanks, and he's got some Vikings this time. The Vikings, he spreads out. Great force fields, using his own barracks against him. Locks him out on the south side here, segmenting off the army. Some actually useful force fields against Terran. It's like seeing a unicorn. 9 SCVs down. And Nightmare, he loses an Archon, a Sentry, he loses a lot of Zealots, but he's able to keep ByuN at bay for now. It was okay. +1 is finishing. Now Disruptor's on the way. That's optimistic. Okay. Alright. I don't know about that one. Flies right directly over. Put him on his dealt with, but Nightmare tried to use that as a distraction in order to move around up towards the natural. And I think he succeeded so far. Three ghosts on the way. ByuN has been, while he's been emotionally bruised this game, certainly Nightmare hasn't been able to keep him as contained as the previous one. Once again, because Nightmare went for that early tech and it didn't really do too much, is why ByuN has been able to pretty easily establish a 3rd and a 4th. So now it's going to come down to those larger armies, where disruptors could very well end the game. But if they don't land, the Protoss army will struggle. Well, we do have a landing. Another one. And he is chunking his way through, but the disruptors wander forward. And now with none left, the Vikings over the top, the EMPs, and the Bio army, the Colossi on the bridge will be knocked down. And some Zealots to counterattack here. Something beyond actually losing a lot of SCVs. 12 SCVs throughout this. Nightmare loses core units of his army. So, ByuN plummets to a 2-worker lead after losing 13 SCVs. He is quite consistent. He's building 4 SCVs at a time. Nightmare now just filling in the probes. Nightmare's supplies. He's very on top of building those extra gateways. Unfortunately, you can't bank up multiple charges like it's campaign, but Nightmare acts like he has them. 183 to 144 supply. That's kind of crazy, considering how that last fight went. Of course, a lot of the army has been filled in with just charge lots here. He's on top of the planetary. Disruptor shot from the south side. Chunks into the Marauders. More dangerous force fields in the form of disruptors. Charge lots into the third. But the planetary ends up falling. A disruptor shot clips the army. Nightmare is closing in. ByuN loses the 4th and 23 SCVs, and the supply gap widens dramatically. Nightmare has flipped the switch from this surgical precision to a war of attrition, and ByuN is unable to keep up. 2-0 Nightmare. What? The charge lots just became too much too fast. That is, I mean, unexpected. Nightmare, again, able to keep control of the situation by just staying on top of everything. Even losing the disrupt... Honestly, I think treating the disruptors as almost a throwaway unit. You get one shot, and that shot can be game-breaking, but I'm not saying it's a good idea to intentionally throw away your disruptors, but I'm saying it's... A lot of Protoss get bogged down by trying to keep them alive at the expense of the rest of their army. So, it ends up working out here. 2-0. But ByuN does not get cornered easily. We're on Alcyone, which is a notoriously hard map to actually end the game because of the high ground and choke points to the 3rd and potentially 4th bases. Assuming we get there. Well, ByuN built a barracks in his base, and now he's trapped. I'm not locked in here with you, says the probe. Somehow. Psionically or something. 2 gas for ByuN. I love it. Recalls the probe. So, I don't know if it's economically worth it. I think emotionally it's worth it to recall that probe. Even if, like, you can do the math and you get a little less than chrono boosting more. I think it's worth it. Just for the couple seconds that Reaper's looking around the corner of the main, like, wait a second. Where did he go? It becomes pretty obvious, but I like it. It gets the thumbs up from me. The Reaper being as annoying as usual. Well, actually, no, that's not true. He hasn't killed anything. Just being annoying, which is the default state. Alright, Widow Mine. On the other side, ByuN did go 2 gas. Is he still mining? Yeah? Is he gonna get an armory? Has he decided to turn to the dark side and go for armory Widow Mine drop? He has the gas right now. We'll see if he has a tech lab. And so far, the more standard, or the more conservative Cyclone openers are clearly not getting it done against Nightmare. Widowmine's more of a wild card, but one that trends in the direction of killing a lot of probes. Getting a tech lab afterwards, so it's just going to be a vanilla Widowmine drop. The Adepts zoning out the Reaper. Oh, I think he saw them. It was on the high ground here. Going to Nightmare's vision. He knows the timing. I'm sure. Actually, this is very early for a mine drop. Usually it's 4:20 to 4:30. This is going to hit a little bit earlier, just as Warp Gate is finishing up. There's a Stalker in the main. But that extra... That 10 seconds can make a big difference when it comes to Widowmines. It's going to hit it almost exactly 420 XD. That's the layout of the base does not... Well, great split, but the mining time is already lost. Oh my. And another one. Oh no 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 no! 5 probes. Oh, he's not done. He's not done. He's not done. Oh my. Oh no. $12 probes. I'm going to preemptively redact my commentary for the next 15 seconds, lest I say something unprofessional. Nightmare, plenty of Blink Stalkers. He's got a Templar Archives on the way. Down 5 workers. And a few Adepts and a Prism. So an odd situation to be in. It looks like he's going to rush Storm as an option to deal with the 2-base follow-up. A Siege tank in the main. I think preempting a Blink Stalker timing, but Nightmare making do with what he has. There's another tank at the natural as well. The Raven shut down by the Blink Stalkers. But, oh, the Warp Prism is still intact. Nightmare making a lot of progress with very little on the other side, but gotta be very... Oh, he's just barely out of range of that tank. And he may actually be able to get the refinery here, which is a surprising win. And with the Warp Prism, there's not actually that many units when you go for the heavy factory play. Grinding through the SCVs. Oh, no. Oh, don't expect one of us. Actually, never mind. It's fine. He gets out of there. Storm on the way, but Nightmare grinding his way back into it after an unfortunate early game. A recall as these Marines about to finish stim. Oh. The afterburners, just enough. One shot away, but not quite. Intercept course laid in. And... got him! Yes, the Adepts are... What a sight. That had to feel good. Felt good for me. That's what's important. God, that's so satisfying. After that, at least you get something. A full medevac of Marines, and Nightmare is carving his way back to parity here. I don't think he's quite found it yet, but the Storms. The first time they've been brought out in this series, there's not a ghost on the field. The Academy is only halfway done. But at the watch, did he spot the Templar? I believe he saw the Templar Archives. So ByuN does know the threat. That's why he has the Ghost Academy in production. He knows the threat is there. Nightmare, third base. Templar waiting at the watchtower. One good set of Storms could not only tilt the game towards Nightmare, just win it outright at this stage. There's a Rumblebay behind. That Templar is conspicuous. Meanwhile, the Stormhammer is loaded up. Very, very obvious what's in that Warp Prism here, but... Oh, the Templar juggled. He's pre-splitting. There's not even combat shield right now, so the storm is devastating to the Marines. He wades right through it. And those Marines in autumn colors. Kind of surprising Nightmare doesn't press the issue while he has the opportunity. And now ByuN starting to set up a bit of a bulwark here. Just something to funnel the charge lots, make it that much easier to deal with them, ideally. After dealing with the Templar. Snipe it off for now. Gets another SCV. A storm. Without combat shield done, Nightmare might have an opportunity, but as soon as it's done, I think he needs to back off. Oh, no, 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 those charge lots get through the rocks. Wait. This is odd. This is a very weird scenario. Those Zealots are in a very awkward scenario. He didn't choose to recall. He didn't want to EMP his own orbital, but here comes the army from the left side. Where are the Templar? The charge lots getting whittled down on their way towards the main. Yeah. +1 just now done. I think a bit of a misplay there with the Zealots from Nightmare. And now ByuN has a devastating amount. There's no reason Nightmare should still be here, which is why it's kind of a genius play. As ByuN is scrambling back, looking to intercept, but I don't know if there's enough army supply on either side of this situation for Nightmare to actually compete. He's got to be very careful. He's got the Templar, softens up a group. He's getting hunted down. And now the EMP means that Archons must be merged, but the army going to be chased down. Nightmare tries to come in to save the Archons. It's not going to happen. Extended Thermal Lance is nearly done, but Vikings are already on the field to contest them. The Colossi are an important part, but not the only part of this. The EMPs don't quite land. He gets all but one Templar, but the Colossi are burning their way through the front lines. The Medivacs are entirely out of energy. And I don't think he EMP'd them. I just think he's been stimming so much. Maybe he needs to lay off the needle. Nightmare is long distance mining here. It's like, no, it turns red when you go over 16. You have to long distance. No, that's not technically correct, but I'm not going to argue with you as he goes for the 4th. Still one Templar. God, those units. ByuN doesn't have enough Medivacs to heal his army. Needs a Caduceus reactor or something at this point. Nightmare has been keeping him engaged. Quite literally. Oh. A Whittle Mine drop is loaded up. 2 Whittle Mines definitely opened up the early game here, and 2 Whittle Mines could end the mid-game as well. Targets down the Vikings. There's one Templar. It needs to save the day. That one Templar is everything. He's microing into the prism. It's a dicey one on both sides right now. Both players are clearly struggling to manage these massive armies that are so dangerous to one another. Nightmare, keeping it together. This is clearly ByuN's initiative, though, as he has a 40 supply lead. He has 1-1 done with 2-2 on the way. The +2 attack is done for Nightmare, which is huge for the Colossi and adding up that splash damage over time. Especially considering how taxed the Medivacs have been throughout all of this. The weapon upgrades are usually prioritized for the Protoss, as armor and shields are split between the HP and shields. And usually, once you're getting down to it, you really want to win the start of the fight more than you want to last throughout the end of it. Sorry, Charge Moss. But now, interestingly, I guess it's more of a budget thing, but he's getting +1 armor over +3 attack. I believe only 1 forge at the moment, yeah. Nightmare on a shoestring budget. Four Vikings at a time, +1 ship weapons. Going to be very helpful, especially if he transitions in towards the Liberators now, which I think he's thinking about, considering the Fusion Core on the way. 3 more command centers. ByuN getting comfortable in Nightmare. Well, getting what he can. It is a tough scenario. Nightmare really doesn't want to get pinned up against his own bases because that gives ByuN all the rest of the map to micro, and he will use it. But at the same time, without shield battery overcharge and quick warp-ins to fall back to, it's going to be very difficult. Nightmare's still trying to stay active. The Templar get a storm, but easily healed through. The base itself is being targeted here. There's another Templar, another storm. He just weathers it. Meanwhile, in the center of the map, the army's getting chased down. The Nexus is saved. Huge defense there for Nightmare. And so many Stalkers in the center of the map, but the Marauders, an existential threat. Oh my god. Words are hard. Advanced ballistics on the way. This game starting to get real dramatic. Nightmare is holding on, but it's clearly ByuN who has the advantage and continues to do so. Unless Nightmare is able to deny a 4th, or at least the 4th base, he's going to continue to get pushed back by ByuN's superior army and unit composition. The only thing keeping Nightmare together has been his ability to keep ByuN in the middle of the map. If he starts getting pinned up against his Nexa, as I mentioned, that's when things start falling apart. He barely kept together his northern base. He can't take another hit on it. The scans kind of give it away, but the storms right before the EMPs. The Vikings. Oh my god, that's so many Vikings. Taking out the War Prism. Pretty easily dealing with the Colossi. And now the Liberators are being added in. Nightmare up to 186 supply. The army supplies 118 to 114. It's about as good as it's gonna get. There's an observer right over the fight here. Advanced ballistics about to complete. The Stalkers just out in the middle of the fray. Nightmare's coming around the right flank though. Trying to take both sides of this. I don't know if there are any Templar. It's unclear who's flanking who as ByuN is gunning down units as they get close. The splash damage is not involved, but here come the Templar. The storms across the board! Massive storms, but are they enough? As the medevacs are healing through for now. Oh, ghosts are dying. The Liberators are zoning out the southern flank, blinking over the rocks. A very slick move from Nightmare, but he clearly struggling to break through the critical mass. I think the idea was good, but it was almost impossible to execute that perfectly, as ByuN can just slide from side to side with that bio army and gun down everything that doesn't have splash damage. I think Nightmare made the best of a really tough situation. How many observers does Nightmare have? He has 6 observers! The Eye of Sauron. Well, the Eye of Protoss over here. That's crazy. As, yeah, he has observers all... I mean, that's what you need. That's the only way you're going to be able to take a good fight, is if you decide how the fight's going to go beforehand. So 3-3 is done. These observers are the real MVPs for Nightmare. But it's so tough. He does have a Dark Shrine. In fact, well, the Bio Army just weathering it. 3-3 is done. He's just stomping up into the army here. He doesn't care about the storms. He doesn't care about the Colossi. Maybe he should just a little bit. But the trade is good. There's an advanced ballistics liberator ping cushioning probes from afar. I'm not even sure. That might be one of the invulnerable ones. I'm not even sure you can hit that. The middle of the map, yeah, Nightmare can see it coming, but... okay, it was barely in range to be hit by the Stalkers, but he's gonna need a... oh, God. Yeah. It's falling apart here for Nightmare. He's done a great job of holding it, but he hasn't really been able to push back against ByuN. ByuN has played his position well ever since the start here. And now he's slowly but surely closing in. The Disruptor return fire! Huge hit! The Stalkers over the top, trying to engage the Liberators. The Liberators taking a lot out of the Protoss army in the process. He might be able to clean it up, but at what cost? The Liberator still... Oh my god, almost gets a Colossus. Like, he's... the +2 armor is helpful, but... the Widow Mine actually gets the Colossus. There's only Templar left. A hectic, a chaotic fight. But ByuN able to pull it together. And Nightmare is falling apart. I will say, even though this game is almost certainly going to go towards ByuN, I'm still impressed with how Nightmare was able to play from that position. Many Protoss would have crumbled to any amount of this aggression, but Nightmare has kind of tempered his defense with the as much aggression as he could do in order to keep ByuN back. And he was hoping ByuN would make a mistake. He was hoping maybe he didn't go for the Liberators in time, hoping that he could catch the army out with Disruptors or Storm. But ByuN is tearing through everything. He just has far too much economy. He has the rest of the map. And Nightmare wasn't able to deny pretty much any base. So ByuN will put himself... It's weird. This is ByuN's first game. 16 probes. Okay, Nightmare. All right. He knows. He can see the units rally across the map. He has perfect vision. He's got 6 observers. And 8 stalkers, and that's his entire army. ByuN misplaced his command center on Nightmare's side. Ends like it started. Decisive Widowmine hit. ByuN's on the board. Two to 1. All right, we're headed to Oceanborn. The Storm is an interesting choice. Storm is in a weird spot, I think, in the Terran versus Protoss matchup. It can be devastating, but it doesn't have the finality, if that makes sense, of, like, obviously a Disruptor, but a Colossus timing either. So, the Storm can be used to soften up the army, for your charge lots, for your Stalkers, but at the same time, it has some very clear counters in the form of Ghosts and just Medivacs themselves. So, but I think mixing it up with the Storm was clearly the right call. As Colossi, in a low economy situation, they can just throw units at them. But the Storm is a bit of a wild card compared to Colossi or Disruptors, where it could be the difference maker that allows you to win a fight. Whereas one Colossus showing up is not going to save your game. But one Storm might. And I think it almost did for Nightmare. Either way, these are some of the most interesting games. Specifically for, like, sorry, ByuN. I've seen it before. Okay, and I'm sure I'll see it again. But the way Nightmare's playing is... It's not unique. It's not like he's discovered new units. That's not happening at this stage, obviously. But the way he uses them, and the timings and the focus is definitely unique. I'm really looking forward to Nightmare this year. He didn't, unfortunately for him, he didn't quite really put up the results by the time IEM rolled around, IEM Katowice. But maybe for the tournaments later in 2024, we'll see some more of him. Also, with a lot of players, I think Nightmare does suffer. Like, I haven't seen a single breakout performance in Protoss versus Zerg from him. I think he's still struggling with that matchup. And Protoss versus Protoss has always been a bit of a disaster, emotionally, physically, and for Protoss players who are trying to remain remarkably consistent. All right, this time around, not a single Reaper, but instead we're going with what looks to be a Marine Hellion Medevac timing? Sure. ByuN pulling out. Like, he just rotates through builds that have been played sometime in the last 15 years. 14, I guess, for SC2. This build could have been straight out of Wings of Liberty. Wings of Liberty, Hellion drop plus Marine timing was one of the staples of early game Protoss versus Terran. Because in Wings of Liberty, Protoss didn't really have anything to defend it. This is why it was so hard for Protoss to expand. No shield batteries, no photon overcharge. You're pretty much doing like a 4-gate or a blink all in every game. Otherwise, the Terrans are gonna drop you. Okay. No, it wasn't frozen. ByuN just wasn't moving, which was quite odd. The medevac headed towards the natural. 3 Hellions kill probes in a single volley. 5. 6. 7. 8. That's a lot. Huh. That's gonna get a solid from me. Was it worth it? Nightmare is at a probe deficit. But at the same time, that was a lot of early production. There's only a single tank. Nightmare, of course, has an observer. God, he's so good with those observers. I think he's trying to bait out an auto turret. He sees where the tank is. He definitely could blink in here. A depth shade, just to create some extra drama. Gonna use the War Prism for vision. Juggling in. Gonna eat some tank shots. Oh, shoot at his own prism. The prism's kind of an important part of this. I think 2 tank shots softened up the units enough that he doesn't end up getting that critical damage, but kills some SCVs, gets one of the tanks, which could open up an opportunity for later. Stalkers. Shift blinking in. Joining up with the other stalkers. He's just smoothly maneuvering. We go for the tank. Ooh. He actually blinks into the Warp Prism to pick... Oh. It's getting a lot less smooth now. Oh yeah, this is a disaster. Oh my. He ends up losing... Okay, it felt like a lot more than 5 stalkers. 5 is still a lot. But... a lot of those stalkers, almost none of them get out unscathed. That's a tough time. Yeah, they got like 1 stalker of HP between 4 of them, plus their shields, but Storm is on the way to follow it up again. Oh. Stalker attempted to blink in. Obliterated there. Double bunker at the natural. ByuN. The observer spots all this again. But I think Nightmare may have overplayed his hand a bit. A scan spots the recalled prism, which is unfortunate. ByuN immediately changes angles on the double drop here. He also spotted the Templar, which prompted the Ghost Academy to counter. So, Nightmare does have a third rather comfortably. ByuN just now finishing his up. Yeah, this drop. Ooh, Medevacs, he had taken their sweet time. And the feedback adding just enough damage to snipe off 1. Well done by Nightmare. No forge. Wait, is there a forge? No forge for Nightmare. He's got a lot of gates. There's the Robo Bay. Here's the forge. Feeling a little more comfortable now. He got the... There's an observer, if you see on the minimap. There's an observer just snuck into the main base. And spotted pretty much everything, as well as the 3rd base timing. If he didn't know before, he knows now. So. Is that a storm drop? Yes, 4 High Templar and a Prism. Well, that is an expensive Warp Prism right there. Thankfully, it's not in Hero's hands. He's gonna try to break, it looks like. And, you know, he has a chance to do so. The Observer spots everything here. The Warp Prism. The Vikings trying to get some hits off, but don't want to risk getting sniped off by the Blink Stalkers. Nightmare is taking a 4th base during the... Oh, the Observer! He figures it out. The fact that Nightmare... Yeah, a bit predictable with that, but very important for ByuN to snipe off that Observer. Supplies dead, even 139 apiece. And it looks like Nightmare just going to try the storms on the SCVs instead. Oh, do not lose that Prism. Do not lose that Prism. He gets all the Templar out at least. 5 SCVs, but it costs him the Prism. And some energy on the tide. He's hoping for more, but the Vikings were in position to box it out. And Nightmare come in with something of a counterattack. Clearly an Observer spotting the move out here. Trying to chase some of this down, but the charge lot's into the mineral line. Gonna kill a couple of the tanks as well. A great counter here. ByuN taking a lot of the Stalkers out in turn, but getting sliced up. The Zealots in the natural. EMP, but hunts down the Ghost. Gets it. Going for another Ghost here in the main. Widowmine takes it out. Ghost ascends. And so far... Nightmare whittling things down, but taking a lot of damage himself. He traded out a lot of his economy, or not his economy, but his Zealots, in order to get that done. And now ByuN has quite an army supply lead, but there are Colossi in production. Or at least he just finished one up. He clearly has 2 Robos now. +1, extended Thermal Lance. Now ByuN has the army, so how many Vikings? Just 2. 2 Colossi with extended Thermal Lance and +1 against just 2 Vikings. I mean, the Marauders are obviously a huge part of it. And the Storms as well. This is a capable defense for Nightmare, but it also is a dangerous army for ByuN. If Nightmare loses a Colossus, or just steps a little too far out of... Oh no, the Widowmine. Onto the Warp Prism. And now, the permanent damage. Way too risky, I think, to keep that around. At least it didn't kill it outright. He has 2 Warp Prisms, so... Smart move, I think. More Vikings on the way. ByuN, up to 186 to 170 supply, but Nightmare is pulling his army together. There's a War Prism waiting outside ByuN's base. Nightmare looking to snipe off the Vikings. Still some Templar in a full health Prism. ByuN very dangerous right now. Nightmare gets another warp in. 4th base landed. Bio army to the north side. Nightmare has the difficult proposition of splitting his forces. Templar full energy. Good storm. Not enough to actually stop the Bio Ball, though. As just Stalkers remain. The Colossi have moved to defend the 4th base. Chooses that one over the new 5th. ByuN has a 4th up as well. And a 5-worker lead at the moment. 74? Well, 67 after losing the base. Nightmare not able to keep ByuN back like he was in the first 2 games of this series. And it clearly shows. The Warp Prism gets into the main. That's a huge deal. Massive warp in here. Goes straight for the engineering bay. Meanwhile, trying to catch the army on the retreat. A repair coming through, though. And the Warp Prism is still alive here. Could warp in more. Going for the end. If he actually delays the upgrades, that is a significant part of this. Gonna warp in even more charge lots. And... deny. +2 attack gone. And that means Nightmare will maintain something of an upgrade advantage. Meanwhile, fighting in the center of the map. These Stalkers trying to snipe off the Vikings so the Colossi can get work done, but there's nothing left for them. The Marauder and the Viking taken out. Recalls just one Colossus home. And despite the infrastructure damage that Nightmare was able to deal in ByuN's base, at the end of the day, the Disruptor shot could turn the whoa! And with it, he got 10 kills with it there. But the supply gap is massive. ByuN has built much more than that in the meantime. He gets the rest of the army here. Nightmare still holding it together. That Disruptor single-balledly, keeping Nightmare in this game. But ByuN, 111 to 72 army supply is quite a disparity. He doesn't have the upgrades, but Nightmare really doesn't either. It's 2-1 to 1-1. The army composition, 8 medevacs, 4 Vikings. Nightmare over to the right flank. He actually didn't spot this army moving in. He's going to lose a lot of zealots because of it. Almost nothing will die on ByuN's army here. That's a lot of supply gone for almost nothing. Nightmare trying a half-hearted base trade. Will ByuN come all the way back? That'd be a huge mistake. Possibly the only way Nightmare could get back into this. Well, if he's able to crush the army before Nightmare realizes, maybe. But, yeah, where did the army go? Actually, the defensive army is kind of holding on its own. Which means, I take it back, ByuN is going to crush the Colossi. He's easily going to deal with the Stalkers and Zealots as well. Nightmare committed most of his important units. Speaking of, Templar and Disruptors are wandering across. The Disruptor should be spotted here. May just fire off a shot or two. No, he's just going to lose them. He gets a mediocre connection, but now down 80 supply. Feels like ByuN kind of letting Nightmare overextend. Especially in these last 2 games a little more. A whole bunch of charge lots. Nightmare wants to stay aggressive, but ByuN's army is just better in these smaller engagements. It's just Templar and Disruptors. EMP gets a merge. Misses the EMP. Disruptor shot. Looks dangerous. Looking for a storm. Another EMP. The charge lots are closing in. The rest of the army is cutting off reinforcements. Nightmare. I thought we were closing this out, but actually is closing in. The bio army is massive here. Are there any more Ruptors? Nightmare's long distance mining, which is far from ideal. Another bio army coming up. A Colossus. So many charge lots. The upgrades haven't been increased in so long for either player, as they just keep throwing units at each other. But Nightmare is able to pull this back a little bit. He cut off a lot of units in the center of the map. The charge lot slicing through a couple dozen supply of bio. Nightmare keeps long distance mining, but ByuN, Nightmare really struggling. The lack of... He only has 2 observers, which is way less than he likes. Oh no. He transferred so many probes over here. And now he's transferred them to the units lost tab. The Nexus is gone. Trying to take the left side, but ByuN is just cutting him down. Rebuilding Templar, 27 charge lots. There's... The anti-air is 1 Archon and 1 Stalker. Another base spotted. I gotta applaud Nightmare's ability. Like, he's clearly not getting tilted here. He knows what he needs to do to try to come back into it. And if he was up against almost anyone but ByuN and maybe a low single-digit number of other Terrans, like Clem and Maru, and that's the end of the list, very well could get back into this game. But ByuN at 200 supply, Nightmare keeps trying to bait him into these fights. The problem is, even if Nightmare gets the ideal fight, it might not be enough. The Planetary is holding, the charge lots are dying, the supply is plummeting, the Liberator is finding the probes. Nightmare keeps making good moves. But at the end of the day, it's not enough. And now ByuN is like, alright, a fusion core armory. Getting more Vikings. The bio ball is massive here. Are there any more storms? EMPs across the board. Trying to dodge. The storms are good. Not good enough. That's it. Finally, ByuN is able to finish him off and bring us to Game 5. Our Nightmare needs to pull it together. No matter how many storms, ByuN seems to have the medevac umbrellas and is able to weather them. The early aggression not quite paying off these last couple games. I think ByuN has adapted to Nightmare's aggressive defense. And it truly feels like Nightmare just overextending a bit is leading to ByuN having a continued lead. But it does make for the most dramatic series, as we're going to Game 5. Will ByuN be able to pull off the reverse sweep? Or does Nightmare lock it back down? Jimmy. Golden Aura. Our most photogenic map, in my opinion. And can result in some of the most dramatic late games with the kind of asymmetrical setup. The gold base in the bottom left corner. And then the single contested base in the top right. Nightmare up to some shenanigans, or at least he was pre-building the Zealot and then cancels it to get a Nexus. Kind of a preemptive defense against NG Bay block in that case, because you get full money back on the Zealot. It's going to be a Marine, but Nightmare gets out. Seeing the Marine at all is already some quite important info. Little crab, very scared of confrontation. And ByuN falling back to a ByuN Classic with the triple racks. 3 barracks bio. Adept Shade. It's going to be a Twilight yet again. Not going with the Phoenixes. I wonder, well, the Phoenixes were so long ago. God, this series has been quite comprehensive. Like and subscribe if you enjoy comprehensive series. You made it this far, all right? Treat yourself. I didn't know how long. I was expecting a couple, maybe longer games, and then a couple decisive early games. But instead, we've had quite the slugfest of a series. Robotics facility. It's going to be probably the safest early game. It looks like Blink Robo. Yeah. Which will cover all your bases, literally and figuratively. The only risk you run is not having enough to deal with a more committed sort of attack. Robo's done. Does he go for the Robo Bay immediately, or is it just for observers? We'll find out momentarily. Occasionally we'll see a sort of Colossus drop timing. I believe in one of the last series we saw between these two was Colossus drop deciding it, which is just an insane, somewhat risky but always dramatic way to keep the pressure on the Terran. Blink in production. How much does he know? I think he's seen enough to have his suspicions, but there is no shield battery on the way. It'd be very anticlimactic for ByuN to just walk across and kill him, but also on brand. Blink is almost done. Combat shield a little closer as well. Uh-oh. He has no vision at all of this. Oh no. ByuN wouldn't just go for a barracks timing, would he? Do you know who you're talking about? Uh-oh. Not like this. Is it like... Oh my god, it's already too much damage. The probes. Oh my god. It's a nightmare. And he can kill the stalkers too. Like, I don't think he's gonna go for the 22 probes, which is about 17 too many. Almost gets another. Well, that is an absolute and utter disaster right now. To Nightmare's credit, I guess, he doesn't just tap out of the game. But it's really bad. I would not have blamed him if he did so. It would have been embarrassing, yes, but well, if he brings this back, it could be the most dramatic possible. Like, ByuN scanned the natural just to make sure. Did I do terrible, terrible damage? Yes. Yes, he did what could be considered game-ending damage. Now Nightmare, gonna try to do a fraction of the same. So far, didn't lose any... Well, loses a stalker over to the left flank. Gets 5 SCVs. Alright, he starts up the ladder. It takes a few rungs here. Ooh. There's no right choices for Nightmare at this stage. He just has to try to find an angle. It's got to be a combination of ByuN getting overconfident and Nightmare literally playing perfectly. And even then, it's going to be very difficult. I don't mean to be the call GG any second kind of guy, but this is about as close as you get to it. There's a shield battery, the stims, but it just targets down the battery. The stalkers trying. Might not lose any probes this time. I might be wrong about that, though, as he just slides by. Using Nightmare defense. The blink stalkers at the back here. After such a beautiful first 2 games, I can't blame Nightmare for literally trying everything here. Oh god, the Templar dead on arrival. There's Storm on the way, but just picks up. Drops back down to kill the Stalker. Oh god. The War Prism still trying. ByuN right now. Trying not to be too mean. Oh my, never mind. I take it back. He's building Widow Mines. Gonna go do a Widow Mine drop. That's where this series turned. On El Coyote, with the Widow Mine drop killing a dozen probes. And now looking to close it out with another one. A recall. Oh my, that was close. There are some Templar. ByuN has 62 to 47 workers. Widow Mine just dropping at the edge, why not? And now into the mineral line. Nightmare can't really afford any losses here. But he will lose some. Drop into the natural. He has that other mine lurking in the main as well. Retargeting, recalculating, gets a couple more probes. That, and then the bio army onto the third. Loses the base. Not sure if he canceled. Doesn't matter too much. I'm waiting for that mine. The Marauders trying to zone out the Templar, doing an okay job. Nightmare has no upgrades. He's up against +1, which is quite a significant damage boost for the bio. And the Widow Mine just scampering down. Like a carbot animation. I didn't notice. Is there an art? A scan. Oh no, the Templar drop out. The storm is incredible. Not incredible enough. GG. ByuN turns it around. He finishes him up. A bit of an anticlimactic end, but an appropriate one, as ByuN didn't pull any punches. And Nightmare, with such a beautiful start, crumbles. 3 games in a row. The trials and tribulations of a modern-day Protoss. But still, let's remember the good times. Let's remember those first 2 games, and remember how they made your day just a little bit better. And also then ByuN came in with a vengeance and said, that's enough. You cut it out right there, Mr. Protoss. Go back to wherever you came from. I'm taking this one up with the Twilight Count. Moving on. Thank you for watching. I hope either way made your day a little bit better. I hope you enjoyed at least some of those games. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. And make sure to check out the second channel, Winter Gaming TV. Yeah, one of those. For more gameplay, Stormgate, Zero Space, all the other games you want to go on about as well, on top of this one. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.